I've seen over the decades is I've seen people stop for such silly reasons. I have seen people just stop using testosterone because of acne. I've seen that so many times. And I cannot fathom why somebody would forego the massive benefits of testosterone for something as silly as acne or for any of these side effects. There's things we can do. We can mitigate side effects. We can do other things. There's other things you can do for your hair. I don't know exactly what's happening. Is it just shedding? Some people need to breach a certain threshold in order to begin to have enough androgen receptor agonization to feel the effects. I've had plenty of patients who needed to break 1,300 or even 1,500 nanograms per deciliter before they experienced resolution of symptoms.
That's Ryan Root. You guys know Ryan. He's been on the podcast. And this topic is about like quitting TRT. Often in the forums, you're going to find like threads of people that are like, I'm quitting TRT. They couldn't dial in. They couldn't manage estrogen. You know, there was acne. There was this, there was hematocrit. There was whatever. And you got people that are on for 8 weeks or something, you know, when sometimes dialing in might take you 6 months, and you need to embrace that just fucking want to give up. So the question really is, and what I want to, you know, talk about in this video is like, when you're having a hard time on testosterone, should you just quit? Or should you better yourself and challenge yourself to learn all the intricacies of hormones, your response to hormones, ancillaries, how they change the game considerably, how you can manage your blood level so that you have a great experience on TRT and then can age gracefully, feeling great, feeling strong, looking fucking good, and being a beast. Let's get into it. All right, before we get started, look, Cortex Labs is a TRT guidance, sexual dysfunction resolution, and performance optimization company. You're going to range of different products, ranging from the source list. Source list covers all anabolics, access to everything, including high-potency DHT gel. I just got another batch of 20% DHT gel in the mail yesterday, and I was fucking excited to see it. You get that down the description of this video. Look, my history is in the neuropharmacology of nootropics, specifically in consulting CEOs of big companies using nootropics, and I built one after all that experience. It's called Torque. It's down the description of this video. Lastly, I'm a coach on TRT protocol restructuring, as well as sexual dysfunction resolution. You can look at my reviews and all of the processes and consults at livecortex.com and hire me in under a minute. Okay, so look, yeah, you know, TRT is not always just happiness and unicorns right away. For some people, they get on 150 milligrams a week, they inject it on a Sunday, and then everything's great. Right? Erections come back, libido comes back, they're stronger, the confidence comes back, the masculinity and the productivity. But, you know, for others, like they have to learn their body's response to hormones, and they have to, in some of these cases, like looking at hematological parameters, acne, etc., learn to manage their body's response to hormones so that they can get the goals, the goals achieved of TRT, the sexual function, the anabolism, the productivity, the confidence, the masculinity, all that good stuff. And by the way, the health, the health. Yeah, these guys on super low levels of testosterone, even mid levels of testosterone, you're not doing your health any favors, believe me. Like, I mean, posts like this, like quitting TRT. I've been on 160 milligrams test for 6 months. 6 months, bro? Wow, you probably want to give that 2 fucking years before you even think of quitting. And this totally means you haven't tried everything, and you haven't learned enough about your body regarding what to try and how to stabilize protocols. My last shot was last week and a half ago, and I've been feeling very tired and no energy. Well, that's probably because your last shot was too fucking long ago. My sex drive libido is still good and can perform well, still just tired mostly. Any suggestions on how to recover faster? Recover meaning like after going off test. Thanks in advance. A lot of it's also based on misconceptions. This guy thinking of quitting TRT because of the increased risk of heart complications. Actually, we've debunked that. I mean, it's the other way around. You've got increased risk of cardiovascular problems the lower your testosterone is as you age. Anyway, I want to go to Root's video on this because he hits on a lot of points about this, like why people want to quit TRT, and then basically rebuttals that I think everybody needs to hear. So let's talk about it.
This Reddit post is going to be about coming off TRT unscathed. If you could come off TRT unscathed, would you? I know that TRT has helped a lot of men tremendously, but I also know that it can be a full-time job dialing in. My question is, knowing what you know now, if you were able to come off and not go through hell, meaning back the way things were before starting, would you? In other words, has the juice been worth the squeeze?
Let's start with what they are supposing as their argument.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous. Like each one of those sentences is a whole conversation in itself. First off, he says that he knows TRT has helped a lot of people tremendously. That's true. It has. I think that might be the only thing he says that makes sense. He says it's a full-time job to dial in. No, it isn't. Full-time job?
Yeah, there's a lot of suppositions there. If you have somebody good guiding you, then it's not a full-time job. You can actually do it pretty quickly. And for most people, it's pretty simple. It's about essentially just taking the testosterone, being guided, and most people pretty quickly feel much better, or pretty much dialed in pretty quickly. Although, of course, fine tuning and optimizing can take a while, but that's not really a job. It kind of becomes fun.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Yeah, fine tuning should become fun, right? For me, like anytime I change a protocol, specifically in the interest of anabolism, like all the cycle stuff that I've gone, which is really two, one at 560 milligrams a week and one at 300 milligrams a week. Doing that, yes, libido, erections change, how you feel changes. Maybe you'll have to manage hematocrit, but for me, that was actually fun. Do I need a little more DHT to kind of counteract the estradiol and block it at the genetic level? What is the dose of aromasin that I should be running on 300 milligrams a test or 500 milligrams a test? I've accepted through working with people on TRT for more than a half decade at this point that if you do execute a protocol change, especially if you're increasing the dose a lot, or in some cases even if you fucking add Anavar, that could change your libido, that things are going to change. So for me over the years, it's always been like, well, I'll learn more by doing this, and that benefits me greatly. You never want to avoid going into a period of heavy learning where there's a learning curve, because guess what? You'll never be on the other side smarter and more capable if you just avoid it. TRT dialing can be a dance, and it can take some time because bodies are different. But if you look at the end goal of being fully optimized and having energy from fucking 6 a.m. when you wake up until 10 p.m. at night, and then being able to go to the gym every day. I'm telling you, for the first 3 years of TRT, dude, I fucking took Christmas off. I was at the gym every day. That is a stark difference, compared to my natural self where my levels were fine. Those benefits are so significant, and you want to push to achieve that outcome rather than giving up.
For some people that have like a genetic defect that we don't know about, they have the longest and hardest road to dial in because they're having symptoms no one else has from things that no one else is affected by, because they've got something that's different. For the majority of people, it's really not as big of a deal as he makes it out to be.
That is correct.
And then he says, if you were able to come off and not go through hell, meaning going back the way things were, what is he even talking about? The way things were before was hell. So you would go back to that. He's saying, what if you could keep TRT without taking it? What is he even talking about?
It's also supposing that when you come off that, you can't return to your baseline. You can return to your baseline. I wish I would have started earlier had I known what I know now. I want to start with this first one. I want to say, no, this is a person stating that they wish they had started earlier. This is the most common refrain I hear. People wish they started earlier. So I get this all the time. I've always said this. A lot of people start testosterone. Once they start testosterone and feel the benefits, they tend to get angry. Right? They get angry because they've been misled by their doctor, by their peers, by society in general. They feel so much better now that, they would have benefited if they started this years ago.
Yeah, listen, that's one critical point. As I said, my testosterone levels were high normal as a natural. I had worked to get them there after being hypogonadal in my early 30s for a while. And once they fucking got there, dude, yeah, sure, I felt pretty good for my age. But getting on testosterone and really not having that much higher levels, maybe a couple hundred nanograms per deciliter over, I can feel pretty good at 900, but especially 1300, 1400, 1500. The difference in how I felt, even though I had healthy levels of testosterone prior, fucking significant. My ability to build muscle, it might just be the extra 300 or 400 nanograms per deciliter total testosterone in that higher free test that allows you to actually build muscle. If some of you watch my older videos and I was strictly taking nootropics and not really taking testosterone, this is circa 2017, 2018 timeframe. Yeah. I wasn't going to the gym and lifting weights, admittedly. I was just running. So obviously I was sort of just skinny as a result of that. But when I would try to go to the gym, it was a lot harder for me to build muscle, even having test levels in range. And, you know, even though I started early enough, like I wish now knowing what I know now, like, oh, dude, I would have started at fucking 25, bro. You know, just as I came out of the army and started, you know, being an entrepreneur, because those days were hard too, you know, hustling 15 hours a day and all that shit requires energy. I would have started fucking way earlier.
But some people will actually get the idea 10 years before they ever do it. But when they first researched it, they get hit with these Google searches that come up that say testosterone causes cancer, it causes heart attacks. And they go, oh, well, I'm not going to do that. It's not till like 10 years later they find out that it doesn't. And that's when they get mad. Like, you mean I could have started 10 years ago? So that's why we're trying to help get this information out to people early on. So hopefully they see us first.
Yeah.
Know that it's not going to give you heart attack and cancer. Like, it's okay. That he types the word optimize in quotes like it's a dirty word. Making something optimal is always a positive thing, because optimal as a word implies perfection. It's optimal. So how can you say that's a bad thing? Like, he says the people who didn't really need it were just looking to optimize. What's wrong with optimizing? How can he present the word optimal like it's a bad thing?
Yeah, look, you know, in my nootropics days, I would get, you know, maybe in the very beginning, I had a little bit of this, but that quickly passed when I realized like how fucking much of a cheat code it is. But you'd get people kind of in the comment section of our YouTube channel that would be like, yeah, don't you feel like it's a little cheating, you know, when you're taking nootropics and now you're functioning cognitively, like at a level, like, you know, above everybody else around you? And isn't it cheating? And the answer is no. You're aging, right? Your acetylcholine firing in your brain, as well as your dopamine firing, among other things, is declining. In fact, acetylcholine is what ultimately declines so significantly that you get to the point where you can't remember shit. You know, this is called Alzheimer's. Now, sure, that's defined by other things, you know, beta amyloid plaques, among other things, but cholinergic drugs that, you know, prevent the breakdown of acetylcholine are one of the primary treatments for Alzheimer's. So you need that acetylcholine. So there's nothing cheating about optimizing. The people that you see that are in their late 60s that fucking look great, their complexion is great, they're walking around strong, they're at the gym, they've got a happy life, they're eating, you know, a lot of vegetables and good quality protein, and they just, like, you know, have a glass of wine at dinner and they're just happy with their partners. Those people optimized. Yeah, they optimized. They got on hormone replacement therapy. And, you know, like, dude, before all this, you know what happened? Remember 30 years ago, you know, 30, 40 years ago when you were a kid, like 65-year-olds, you remember how they looked back then? They looked fucking 90, bro. They were in bad shape, dude. And you still have some people these days that are 65 that look 90, but then it's like, dude, we have realized we can slow the aging process significantly through hormone replacement therapy and through lifestyle and diet and all these other things, in a way which you have 69-year-olds that are looking incredible. More and more you're seeing 75-year-old like weightlifters and they're fucking ripped, dude.
I've seen over the decades is I've seen people stop for such silly reasons. I have seen people just stop using testosterone because of acne. I've seen that so many times. And I cannot fathom why somebody would forego the massive benefits of testosterone for something as silly as acne or for any of these side effects. There's things we can do. We can mitigate side effects. We can do other things. There's other things you can do for your hair. I don't know exactly what's happening. Is it just shedding? Because, you know, we've talked about this. There's a shedding phase when you're on testosterone.
This is a good point. Listen, most people on TRT doses are not going to have hair shedding, right? You'll have the occasional person who does, and that is their genes. You know, they're just more, their brain, their head rather is not resistant to the influx of androgens. The subcutaneous tissue in the scalp lessens significantly, and there's no buffer there for hair follicles, and they start to die. But that shit really only happens to people on extremely high doses, cycle doses. You know, I start shedding on high doses of Proviron, and I start shedding on, you know, above 500 milligrams of test a week. TRT doses, like, fucking dude, not even close. No shedding. No shedding, maybe slightly in the beginning, but no shedding. Let's talk about acne, because this is another thing. You know, some people have backs filled with acne and that makes them want to quit. Well, guess what? We all had backs filled with acne. I had a period in the very beginning of TRT for the first like year and a half, I want to say, where like, yeah, my back, there was a lot of acne. Like I was a little self-conscious about it. It ended up not mattering, by the way, in the context of dating and being with women. But like I was still fucking aware of it, you know, running outside with my shirt off, like I was thinking about it and this kind of shit. Like it never did it make me want to quit TRT. Interestingly, it just magically resolved as time went on. I think there's also, less hormone stability, less fluctuations once your body gets used to it, these sorts of things. But over time that happens. It started to resolve. And then it came back when I went on a cycle. I went on 560 milligrams of test, and I got a bunch of acne on my delts. It was just popping up. My back was fine, but I had this acne on my delts. It kind of started to subside after a while on the cycle, but never really went away. And then it stuck around for a couple months after I got out of the cycle. But guess what? Back down to just regular TRT. Not only did it get better, and go back to normal, but it's even better now than before. So what the fuck happened there? It's I went on higher levels of tests, got, a bunch more DHT, had some more sebum production, and, had some acne. And then my body sensitized to it, right? I went down to TRT doses again, and I have next to no acne, man. Yeah, and regarding hair loss, I mean, yeah, there's things you can do with that as well. Microneedling, tocotrienols have been proven to help with hair loss. You just don't want to touch any of the anti-androgens. I mean, those are going to be counter to what you're trying to do and cause dick problems usually.
And so there's another one. So another possible reason for this, why he doesn't feel a difference from 300 to 800. Another possible reason for this, due to the endocrine disruptors and toxins blocking androgen receptors, or due to single nucleotide polymorphisms that affect androgen sensitivity. Some people need to breach a certain threshold in order to begin to have enough androgen receptor agonization to feel the effects. I've had plenty of patients who needed to break 1,300 or even 1,500 nanograms per deciliter before they experience resolution of symptoms. If this person doesn't feel different from 300 to 800, then you need more testosterone. It's pretty simple.
An important point about numbers, I see this a lot. I wouldn't call it more often than not because, a lot of people still respond to 800 on 900 nanograms per deciliter where estrogen falls in a good range, and then they're good. That's how a lot of people should actually dial in. But, you have these seemingly outliers, somewhat outliers, who are going to be much better off and get the effect from testosterone that they need, considering exogenous tests may not be as effective as your endogenous test on much higher levels of testosterone, 250, 300, 350 a week. Now, those are anomalies, but that exists. It's usually around the 350 milligram mark, and then everything clicks. Bloods look good, or otherwise they can manage bloods, but they're getting all the benefits of TRT. You've got to determine that. Which person are you? Are you the person that needs to be at 140 milligrams a week doing daily sub-Q so that your hormones don't fluctuate much at all and you just stay at 850 nanograms per deciliter with 35 E2 and a little bit of HCG to keep the testicles functional and sensation good, and then you can ride off into the sunset? Or are you one of those people that needs to be on 350 and maybe a small dose of DHT derivative or aromasin, and then you feel fucking phenomenal and you have even more testosterone and you're getting the benefits? Again, the notion of getting off because you're having a hard time dialing in, really, and I don't want to seem like I'm just discouraging people or, being derogatory toward people, it just means you're quitting. It means you're quitting. Yeah. Quit TRT, you're quitting. You're quitting. If I was like that on the various times that I had tried various protocols for various reasons, largely anabolism, and then worked to dial in specifically the sexual function on those protocols, dude, I would have fucking quit, bro. Yeah. I wouldn't have put an extra 100 pounds on my bench over a year. I wouldn't have developed a physique that I'm now happy with compared to my very early 30s and my 20s where I was basically just skinny. I wouldn't have had the energy, the brain energy, the productivity, and the resolve to fucking build a high six-figure business. Back in the day, the information wasn't out there for you to dial in, for you to manage the hematocrit, for you to figure out the estradiol, to figure out the doses or the ancillaries that make erections and libido great while still giving you all the other benefits. Now, you can't say that. You can't say that. And the testosterone subreddit's not necessarily the place to go. Ryan's channel is the place to go. Our channel is the place to go. Vigorous Steve's channel is the place to go. Dave Lee's channel is the place to go. The Anabolic Docs channel is the place to go. The information is now out there. Anyway, yeah. I mean, before people get to the point where they just want to quit TRT, you have to think to yourself, well, what if I went the other direction? What if I immersed myself so much in it and maybe it took me a year to get where I needed to go or longer, but when I get to the other side, my life is so much better. The saying about great things are worth waiting for and nothing great happens without trial and error and tribulations. If it was easy, everyone would just do it. Regarding TRT and dialing in on TRT, that applies to that completely. Yeah, the feeling you have when confidence, masculinity, strength, anabolism, productivity, you like want to start a business, you wake up fucking feeling great at 6:30 in the morning, you have enthusiasm, it pours out of you, people around you see it, they want to be that way. Yeah, you know, that outcome is a worthwhile outcome, and you can't get it if you quit TRT, boys. Dialing in isn't like painstaking for everyone. You know, most people, as Ryan said, and as this other guy alluded to, like do pretty good right away once they find the right dose, but a lot of it has to do with the right guidance as well. So stay on the channel, stay on these other channels. The coaches that are out there, try all of them. Not necessarily just shoot straight for me. You know, maybe Vigorous Steve is better for you depending on your goals, or Roots Clinic, because you know Roots got a lot of experience in this. But looking through the forums and looking through people's experiences on this, there are a good degree of people that are thinking about quitting TRT or are quitting TRT, and usually they're fucking going through it. Like, it's just terrible when they do that. And you know, I as an estimation, 95% of them don't need to do it. Probably more. It's just that it's a learning curve, and you've got to figure it out. And when you do, life is much better. All right, boys, as I said in the beginning, look, yeah, I'm a coach on TRT protocol restructuring. I mean, the bulk of my work is redesigning bad protocols or protocols that aren't working for people. There is a science to this. I'd probably say it's maybe 15% art and 85% science. Cumulatively over the years, I have so many clients under my belt and so many experiences that I just kind of know what to do right away. So if you're struggling with your protocol, just hire me. We'll get on a call. I'll fact find the hell out of you, maybe to the point where you might be a little annoyed with me because I'm peering into everything. But you know, we're gonna get to the bottom of it, and I will formulate a protocol with several adjustments if need be moving forward for you. People with serious sexual dysfunction, however, require usually many protocol adjustments and a long time of feedback and reporting to me, and then changes in the protocol, observation, communication, and adjustment. For those, we've got bigger packages: 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year. Those are for people that have the budget, are serious about getting serious problems resolved relating to sexual function and otherwise, and people that are willing to put in the time themselves to communicate with me through this process. Anyway, you can hire me for any of that stuff in under a minute at livecortex.com. Source list. You need to go at this stuff alone, which some people will, and I encourage it. Just get the source list, man, because if you need to put on a milliliter of transdermal DHT gel on your navel and on your inner forearms or shoulders every day in order to dial in or fix your long-standing ED, that's what you need to do. If you need Tastival esters for cheaper, HCG for far cheaper, ancillaries, Cialis, everything you can think of, including peptides, vetted sources on the source list, get it down in the description of this video. Lastly, again, my history is in consulting CEOs on nootropics and the use of all the 50 agents that we used to talk about for years. After all that, I built one. It's called Torcus, down in the description of this video, and you can buy it. It's pretty strong, dude. All right. Brother, it has been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you're having a great week. Content coming soon. A live stream tomorrow, Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. So be there and I will see you there. Like the video, it makes a huge difference. It's actually one of the biggest factors in the growth and the proliferation of our channel. So it would mean a lot to me if you would just take a second and hit the like button, brother. I promise you, I will repay you through good content moving forward. Sub to the channel if you're new. Plenty more breakdowns on all of this stuff moving forward and in the past. Kick ass, rock on, and I'll talk to you boys on the next one.